while doing the major business research, it will be benefited towards the decision making strategies. While doing research, it gives the competitors we can understand, and along with the market trends more effectively by conducting the businesses. So the meaning only says that applied research is purely based on the specific problem. So that's why that's the major drawback or limitations under the applied research. Hello dear students, welcome to our course Business Research Method. This is specially for Final BBA 5th semester session 1. Today we are going to discuss about the complete introduction about the business research and what are all the major importance along with the steps that included in the business research method. I am Devendra Somappa, faculty in Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Let's get into the topic. The meaning of business research. Actually, what do you mean by business research? Why it is important in a business organizations? As we know that if you want to start a new business or if you want to invest some more, if you need to expand your business, you must do the research. So why? Because that particular research can give you what are all the decisions we have to take based on the risk, based on the investment, based on the product, based on the market. Every detailed information will be get through with that particular business research. The meaning related to this, it is refers to the systematic, the objective and the scientific. See, the systematic, objective, scientific and organized process. It's not a random process. It's purely related on the systematic, objective, scientific and organized process of collecting, analyzing and interpreting the data to solve business problems and support managerial decision making. That will be called it as business research. So it's very important that we are not at all collecting data with random procedures. There will be systematic and objective, scientific and the organized procedure that included in the business research method. So then, and also it involves identifying a problem. What is the problem actually we have to identify through with this business research, and gathering relevant informations, then analyzing the collected data, drawing conclusions and providing recommendations based on the evidence rather than assumptions. Business research, they'll be giving complete realistic evidence to do a business or start a business instead of assuming the data. So that will be called it as business research. We are moving to definitions. What are all the major definitions that included in the business research? Though as per Cooper and Schindler, they saying that it is a systematic inquiry that provides an information to guide managerial decisions. As similar to a business research meaning, this is a systematic inquiry we are conducting through with the business research. So then from that you will be getting information to guide, we'll getting a roadmap to take a managerial decisions. That will be considered as business research as per Cooper and Schindler. Then move on to, according to Kellinger, he says that it is a systematic, controlled and empirical along with the critical investigation of hypothetical and propositions about presumed relations among natural phenomena. As similar to that, it is a purely based on the systematic and controlled, empirical and critical investigation. Through this, we will be investigating the data. So that will be considered as the business research. Now move on to the importance of business research. Why it is important? Why do we conduct business research? What are the major importance that included in the business research? Will be get note this. So then the first major importance is it helps in decision making. As I told earlier, business research, it will be helpful towards the based on reliable information rather than intuitions, rather than guessing the data. It gives complete relevant informations about the business. So that will be major important. It will be purely helping towards the decision making. So then reduces business risk. As we know that we doesn't know what are all the risk, so but we have to face all the possible risk. It's related to financial risk, marketing risk, some product risk, something related to that. So in that manner, by conducting business research, it may reduces the uncertainty, it may reduces the business risk. While before making an investment, if you are investing huge number of money to that particular product, before, if you are conducting a business research, you'll be getting chances of reducing in the business risk. So then the third one identifies market opportunities. So then the business research will give you the inputs toward the opportunity where the customer needs and emerging market wants and all. So by conducting the research, you will be getting the complete informations about the market opportunities. So then we move on to the fourth point, understand customer behavior. While conducting research, we'll be get to know what are all the customer's expectations, how the customer will behave towards that particular product, and their preferences, what is customer actually prefer towards that particular product, and the buying habit, how they are buying towards that product, and the brand loyalty along with the purchasing power. These are all the major customer behavior we'll be getting through with this business research. So then the fifth point, improves product development. By conducting research, will be develop product based on the customer expectations. We'll be getting informations by conducting some survey towards the consumers or customers. They'll be giving an informations to develop our product. So that will be the major importance that included in the business research. Clear? So then move on to 6th point, it support marketing decisions. So what are the major decisions while starting a new business or expanding a business? So there will be a major decisions that related pricing. So automatically this particular research will help towards the pricing strategies along with the promotions, distributions and advertisement effectiveness towards the product. So while doing the major business research, it will be benefited towards the decision making strategies. So then move on to the next point, it increases profitability. As we know that while conducting research, we'll be getting the complete realistic data, how it will be profitable in the sense, the better decisions lead to higher sales, lower cost and improved profitability. We are blindly going to the particular market. If you are investing that huge amount of money into the market, instead of knowing the customer preferences, consumers expectations, consumer needs and wants, if you doesn't know the things, it will be difficult to earn more profit. It may be chances of a business may collapse in future days. So in that manner, if you are conducting research based on that, automatically we will be taking a good decisions towards the product, and it will be increasing the higher sales along with the lower cost of money. It can be improve our profitability. So then move on to enhance competitive advantage. While doing research, it gives the competitors we can understand and along with the market trends more effectively by conducting a business research. Next, the 9th one, it improves employee satisfactions. In the sense, the HR research may give identifications towards the employee motivation and retentions. Through this research, we can easily identify that. The 10th one, it supports strategic planning. By conducting research, we can easily long-term organizational planning we can do by conducting the business research. So then next one, we moving on to the types of business research. We will be having several research types. So based on that, we'll be having 4 important research here. One, that is basic research, it's a fundamental research. The second one, applied research, and the third one, qualitative research, and the fourth one, quantitative research. So based on this, the major research tools will be included. So then we can get into one by one. The first one, basic research or fundamental research. The name only says that the fundamental. It's a very foundation related research. In this research, we aims to develop the new theories which will be included in the basic research and the concept along with the knowledge without focusing on immediate practical applications. As we know that if you are conducting an experimental, if you are observing, that can be give you very short period of research reports. But here it cannot give some immediate practical applications. It will be for a longer durations period. It's a kind of descriptive research methodologies. So say for an example, the university researcher studies how organizational culture influences employee creativity without focusing on any practical or particular company. So in the sense, the researcher may take nearly 4 to 5 years of time. In the sense, it's a long durations period. So that's why the basic research, it include longer durations period. So then the major objective is develop new theories. It automatically create new theories, and along with that, the understand of fundamental business principle. What are the basic principles that included in the research methodologies that will be known through with this research. So then it expand academic knowledge. So then along with the major advantages, here it gives more knowledge about the research and it supports future researchers and it builds theoretical foundations toward the report. So then move on to the major limitations. No immediate practical applications. As I told earlier, it cannot give very short period of results. It take longer duration, so that will be the major disadvantages. And it's a time consuming and it's majorly costly. That is the major disadvantage about the fundamental research. So then move on to applied research. The next one, second one, that is applied research. The applied research is focuses on solving specific practical business problems. It is based on those specific practical problems. In the sense, it is directly useful in the organizations. It is practical in nature and problem solving approaches. Say for an example, a retail company experiences declining in sales. In the sense, they have to apply some kind of a research based on that. They have to conduct survey based on that. Through with the related customers or through with that particular areas, they have to select that sampling and they have to conduct some surveys. Based on that, they have to create, say for an example here, the experiences declining the sales. So then he has to conduct customer satisfactions research to identify the reasons why it is declining the sales. They have to identify from that. The findings helps to redesign the shopping experiences and improve sales. In the sense, the shop, a retail company or any kind of a supermarket shops, they have, if there is any kind of a declining in sales, they have to conduct research to know why the sales are declining from past several days. So in that manner, they have to give a realistic survey. Based on that, they have to collect the customer informations, the customer satisfaction. Based on that information, they have to change or redesign the shopping experiences in the while doing that, improving sales. So that is the major thing that included in the applied research. Next, we move on to the objectives of applied research. In that, it includes the solve organizational problems. It can improve decision making. It increases efficiency. It enhances profitability. These are the major objectives included in the applied research. If we move on to the advantages, it is an immediate usefulness. It can give you very fast results by conducting applied research. So then practical solutions. It gives the practical solutions instead of theories compared to basic fundamental research. The better managerial decisions can be taken through with the applied research results. So then the major limitations, it limited to generalizations and it focuses only on specific problem. So the meaning only says that applied research is purely based on the specific problem. So that's why that's the major drawback or limitations under the applied research. So then we move on to the third one, qualitative research. The qualitative research is purely based on the behavioral aspects. In the sense, it focuses on understanding human behavior, attitudes, perceptions, opinions, emotions, and experience. So all these elements will be included in the qualitative research. The majorly, it answers the questions like why does something happen? This is purely based on the behavioral aspect. So why does something happen related kind of questions they'll be answering through with the qualitative research. So in that, instead of numbers, we will be getting qualitative research that uses to descriptive informations. Say for an example, a coffee shop interviews customers to understand why they prefer one coffee over another customers. It explains that ambience, music and staff behavior influence their choices more than the price. In the sense, this is purely related on coffee over the particular ambience, the music, along with the staff behavior towards that particular consumer. So that will be the major reasons the qualitative research may be included. So then we move on to the major advantages. It will give you rich information because it's purely related on human behavior elements. So then deep understanding regarding the customer needs and wants. So then the flexible approach will be there with the qualitative. So then difficult to analyze, in the sense it will be quite difficult. It is not quite numberals. So it's purely based on the behavioral. So that may be chances of analyzing the difficulties. So then small samples and subjective interpretations will be there. So that's the major limitations under the qualitative. Now we move on to quantitative research. So this quantitative research is purely based on the collecting numerical data, analyzing. It uses statistical techniques. In the sense, it's purely related on the numbers, not related to human behaviors and all. So basically, it answers how much, how many, or how often. That is the major questions it will be answering that. So say for an example, an e-commerce company, he surveys 10,000 customers. So there is a number. That 10,000 customers to determine how many, say yes, how many prefer cash on delivery versus digital payments. So this is a purely related on numbers and this is the answering how many. So the numerical results helps to optimize the payment options. By conducting that kind of research, it will be give you that options. Based on that, if it is any case of 8,000 customers are happy with the digital payment, then automatically the quantitative research will be implement the digital payment system. So that's the way the quantitative research will give you the answers. So then move on to the major advantages, easy comparisons. By throwing the data, the numbers we can easily compare with the data. So then accurate measurement because it's a numerical, and generalizable findings along with the support statistical analysis. So then the major limitations, limited depth and cannot fully explain emotions or motivations. In the sense, it's purely related on numbers, so that's why it's quite difficult to explain the emotions and the motivations in that research. Next, we move on to the major steps that included in the business research process. There will be having nearly 8 steps are there. We can see one by one. In that first one, the step 1 is identification of the business problem. So, or research problem. See, if you want to know what is the problem actually, this is the first major step. If you know the problem properly, we can easily conduct research. So then the researcher first identifies and clearly defines the business issue that requires investigations. In the sense, what is actually the problem facing a business? Say for an example, a supermarket is facing declining sales. So then he has to identify why the sales are declining. So then they has to go for a research. So say for an example here, a clothing retail observes a 20% decline in sales over the past 6 months and wants to determine the underlying causes. Yes, exactly. We want to conduct why the sales are declining based on the data. So then the second one, after identifying the research problem, they have to do a review of literatures. The literatures only says that it's purely related on some books, some journals, some newspapers or data. So they have to examine the books, journals, company reports or any kind of a previous studies and along with any online database to understand what is already known about the problem. The literature review give you the brief benefited report or already written data. We can know that what is already they given. From that we have to identify the gap. So then we have to conduct a research. So then it helps to identify knowledge gap and refine the research focus. So then move on to that, the example if you take for a review of literature, before studying customers' loyalty, a researcher reviews earlier studies on loyalty programs and consumer behavior. This is the way we have to conduct or do the review of literatures. So then move on to the step 3, that is formulation of research objectives and the hypothesis. What is the major objectives that included in the research steps? So why we are conducting research? What is the major agenda we have to formulate in these steps? So there the clear objectives, it specify that what the study intends, the intention of the study, and what do you want to go or what do you want to achieve, what do you want to prove, that will be included. And if appropriate to, hypotheses are developed as a tentative statements to be tested. We have to find along with the tentative statements by conducting hypothesis testing. See, this is purely related on while conducting or formulating objective, what is major intentions to achieve, that will be included in the formulation. Say for an example, to identify the factors affecting customer satisfactions. So this is the major examples related to objectives. And to examine the impact of service quality on repeat purchases. This is the based on example objectives we have to set for that particular business research. So then example related to hypothesis, higher services quality leads to greater customer satisfaction. If you are providing that quality in that manner, automatically the customer will be satisfied. This is the kind of hypothesis we have to set in the formulation of objectives and hypothesis. The next step is research design. In this fourth step, we'll get to know the researcher has to prepare the detailed plan that describing how the study will be conducted. So what are all the strategic tool we have to plan in this design, we'll get to know from the research design. So then the design included the types of research, the data sources, sampling methods, instruments, and along with the analysis techniques. What are all the methodologies or tools we conduct through with this research will be coming with the research design. So say for an example, a company decide to conduct a descriptive survey using structured questionnaires distributed to 500 customers. So here the descriptive survey, that applied method is included. Along with that, the questionnaire is also included, the tools, how we are collecting data, the data sources with the questionnaires, and The quantitative research will be included the 500 customers. We have to distribute with the 500 customers. So this is the way the research design will be working. So then next we move on to the data collections. The fifth step is data collection. So any kind of a research, there will be important step, that is collections of data. How we are going to collect? So in the data collections, we will be having two important steps, that will be primary data and secondary data. The primary data that includes survey, interview, observations and any questionnaires or some experiment. These are all the major elements that included in the primary data. It is a completely fresh data. We are going to directly in collecting the data with the consumers or the customers or any set of samples. So that will be considered as primary data. The secondary data, the name only says that it is already in that particular annual report, any kind of government publications, journals, websites or industry reports. It is already done and dusted. From that particular data, so we will be collecting the information. Say for an example, a bank collects customer feedback through online questionnaire while also analyzing its complaint records. It's purely related to data collections. These are the major tools. We have to go with the research process. Step 5, that is data collections. The next step is data analysis. After the collection of data, we have to analyze that data. So in this, the collected data are organized, classified, coded and analyzed using appropriate statistical or qualitative methods to identify the patterns and the relationships that will be included in the analysis. We have to analyze in this particular manner. We have to organize that, we have to classify that, along with the we have to code it that, and we have to use the appropriate methods. So say for an example, a retailer analyzes sales data and customer survey responses to determine which product categories are most profitable. By doing this, we can easily know the data analysis process. So then the seventh one, interpretations of results. So here the researcher has to explain what the analyzed data mean in relations to the research objectives and hypothesis. How it is quite related to that research hypothesis, the formulation of objectives that related to that interpretations result. That objective and the result should be same. So then only the research will be successful. Say for an example, the analysis shows that delivery delays significantly reduce customer satisfaction, indicating need to improve the logistic. Say for an example, the objective for an online service or logistic company is to provide in-time services. In case any delay in that, automatically the customer satisfactions will be come down. So that is the major results. It will be coming through with the step 7, interpretations of results. So then next move on to the last step, report writing and the recommendations. So here the findings, what you have find out from that research, then the conclusions and the limitations along with the practical recommendations are presented through with that structured report for managers or stakeholders. This is the final step. After all the 1 to 7 step, we have to going to write according to the finding, conclusions, limitations and practical recommendations to the managers. Say for an example, a research report recommends that introducing faster delivery options and improving inventory management to enhance customer satisfaction. This is the final finding that we can easily write as per an example related to the faster delivery options. So these are all the major 1 to 8 steps that included in the business research process. Okay, thank you. We'll see you in the next session.